Hello everybody, hello crappie.com. This is Jay again, Dr. J. I'm out here on the water. I was just going to do a brief little video on my how I have my spider rig set up. As you can see to the left, I've got a rod holder with 4 rods in it, and I've got the same thing on the right. I'll just start with the equipment first. The rod holder is a Driftmaster 250. I got that from Bass Pro Shop. The rods themselves, I have some different rods here. When I first started doing this, I wasn't sure what I'd like, so I bought a hodgepodge. I have a Wally Marshall Tightline Special, Wally Marshall Crappie Thunder. I've got a B&M trolling rod and a B&M Crappie Wizard rod. The 4 center rods, these two, and these two are 12 footers. The remainder are 10s. As far as the reel equipment, I use on all the rods, I use a Pinnacle Tiny Deadbolt. It's a great little reel. It's inexpensive. I got those at Academy, and they're all spooled with 10 and 8-pound tests, just depending on what I had available. I like the high vis line. I feel it's easier to see. Doesn't bother the fish any. Also, the reel itself, tough little reels. Being the lazy person I am, I've yet to do any form of maintenance on them, and I've never had a bit of trouble in about 3.5 years with them. The rig on the end of the rod itself is just a straight out rig from my other video. It's kind of difficult to see, but it's the deep water rig with the sinker on the bottom, 3 hooks above it with some rig with shiners. When I get these rods positioned, what I like to do is I have them all similarly placed in the rod holders. I like to get the tips down anywhere from 6 inches to a foot above the water surface, and I want all of them to be approximately that height off the water surface. The reason for that being a couple of reasons. Number one, the closer you are to the surface, the less the wave action will mess with the tips of the rods. It'll be easier for you to tell when you have a bite. The second reason is if I've got all the rods looking the same and I happen to glance over and I see one doesn't look like the others, I'm either hung up or I've got a fish on there. So it makes it easier even for somebody like me to tell when you've got a bite. One of them doesn't look like the others. In addition to that, sometimes I've had some friends ask me about rod spacing. It depends if you're doing this by yourself or with somebody. If you're by yourself, you're probably going to have to keep the rods a little closer together so you can keep an eye on them. But that also comes with the caveat that if you're in deep water, you're going to have to space them a little more than you may feel comfortable with, just because the closer they are together with all that line, the chance of them getting tangled begin to increase. In shallow water, that's not very much of an issue. In shallow water, you can pretty much put them right on top of each other and really keep a close eye on them. One thing I'd like to show you too, when I get a bite on this, these rod holders, it's real simple to get them out and set the hook at the same time. I usually like to grab it right by the reel, and then I'm going to slide it forward and jerk it up at the same time, and that's going to allow me to clear the rod holder and set the hook. So if I was to get a bite right now, I'd grab this thing, and I can do it pretty quickly. You just pop it out of there. All right. So I don't worry about setting the hook too hard. I'm trying to drive this. I'm trying to drive the hook into the bony part of the roof of the mouth of the crappie. You know, they do have thin mouths on the sides, but that's not where I'm trying to hook the fish. I'm trying to jam that hook up into that bony part of the mouth, and that way that sucker can't get off of there. I've also, a couple people have asked me, how do you keep them from getting tangled when you reel them in? Well, you know, a lot of times that fish is kind of going to do what it wants to do, but if you'll concentrate when you're bringing them up, if you'll think about these rods as being in a lane between here and here, when you're reeling that fish up, if you'll keep him in this lane and not go to the side or try to do anything else with him, a lot of times you can get him up without getting into the other poles, and you can just swing him easily into the boat right along the same lane that we talked about just a second ago, and that'll prevent a lot of your misery. So once again, here's my setup: 8 rods and rod holders. And anybody planning on doing some spider rigging, I hope this has helped you out. Thank you.